I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a books beside my bed video for you, which if you're unfamiliar with this at all, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. And if you're very familiar with the series, welcome back. So I'm pretty excited about this wrap up. However, I will caveat and say this one was sort of a shorter timeline for reading because I'm also participating in the Romance Takeover Readathon and I'm vlogging that. So the books that I read over the weekend from Friday until Sunday or Monday, I think, are going to be in a separate video. And hopefully that vlog will come out on Thursday. If I can swing it, I might edit it by Tuesday, but more than likely it's going to come out on Thursday. So this is my reading week from the 9th until the 13th of January. I read 6 things, 2,247 pages, and my yearly reading total is 25 books. The first book that I read this week was Pair of Fools by Lillian Lark. This is the second book in her Harpies of a Feather series, which is paranormal romance and features a group of harpy sisters. I have read the first one. The first one was 3 of Hearts, which is a polyamorous relationship. This one follows the sister of the heroine from the first book and her love interest who happens to be a demon. So Sophia and Mace in this book have a bit of a tumultuous relationship just in general, and they did meet in the first book and that's where sort of this tense relationship began, and they get on each other's nerves. But what we discover is that Mace needs a tether to the human world. So he is a demon, but he doesn't really exist on any plane, either the demon plane or the human one. And in order to stay, he needs to tie himself to someone who exists on the human plane. And the person that he was tied to is now married, and therefore it's not a great thing for Mace to be tied to him. And so he comes to Sophia and asks for a favor. So they're bonded, and it has an unfortunate sort of unforeseen side effect in that whenever they're apart, their powers are weakened, or their abilities are weakened, I should say. And I should say, I think I forgot to mention at the start, they're both bounty hunters of a kind, and they decide to work on a case together with the caveat that at the end of it, Mace is going to try and find someone else that he can be bonded with because Sophia can't live like this anymore. Anyway, it was fun. There was snarky banter. I really love Mace as a character. He was great in the first book as a side character, and it was really nice to get his story in this one. And I love that we got to see and visit with characters from some of Lillian Lark's other books that exist in the same world. So we saw the characters from Stalked by the Kraken as well as 3 of Hearts. This was really fun. Then I read a gorgeous, gorgeous graphic novel, and that is Princess Ever After by Kay O'Neill. This is a short sapphic graphic novel that is suitable for anyone. And we have Princess Amira, who is very heroic, and she ends up saving Princess Sadie from her tower prison. Sound familiar with a bit of a twist? And the two end up working together to stop sort of an evil sorceress. And you have these two amazing, amazing female lead characters who have a friendship, they work together, and then they fall in love. And it's just gorgeous. It's so fun, and I know so many kids who I introduced to the Tea Dragon Society who would love this. This is probably a little bit more kid-friendly than the Tea Dragon Society, but definitely a stunning one that anyone would love. Then I finally finished reading Small Magics by Ilona Andrews. Now this is a collection of novellas and short story point of view perspectives from the Kate Daniels world, and I have been reading it on and off for a while I've been doing the Kate Daniels read along. The Kate Daniels world, as you know if you've been following my channel for any length of time, is an urban fantasy paranormal romance story. There's a whole lot of characters, and this collection has novellas that are set within the actual timeline of the story, as well as a couple of stories that are set in the world but are not necessarily connected to Kate and Karen and the characters that we know. I'm going to tell you the names of the novellas in the collection, and I'm gonna have to read them because otherwise I'm gonna forget. So there is A Questionable Client, which takes place before the Kate Daniels world begins. It is Kate's introduction to Simon, who is one of the main side characters that we meet throughout the series. There is Retribution Clause, which actually follows Simon's cousin Adam, and he is an insurance adjuster, and this story is about him working with his partner Sarun, and they have to go and enact a client's retribution clause, and that means they have to go and kill the person who killed her. And it's an interesting one, but I really liked it. This is a bigger sidestep from the actual Kate Daniels timeline. and the only tie is really this relationship between Adam and Simon. Then there was a story called Of Swine and Roses, and this is a YA story, and I think the summary said it's about a girl, a pig, some magic, and the worst date ever. And it was really fun, but it was probably not my favorite one in the collection. The one that I absolutely adored was Grace of Small Magics, and this is about Grace, who comes from a family who do have magic, but it's small magic, and it sort of manifests in different ways. And her family is indebted to another very powerful clan, and she's sent off to go and pay part of that debt. And when she goes, she finds herself in the middle of this clan war, and her very small magic is something that helps turn the tide. And it was just great. I really loved it. This collection also includes Magic Tests, which is a Julie novella. So this does take place in the actual Kate Daniels timeline. And this is where Julie is off to a new school, and she's sent there to help investigate the case of a missing student on campus. And then the last lot of things in this collection are all the current POVs, and there's even a Jim point of view, which are scenes from the series from the perspective of the male characters, which we don't get in the original books. So I love this collection. It was really fun. It's probably the longest time it's ever taken me to read an anthology, but you know, it's done now, and I'm really, really happy. I'm so glad I read some of these other novellas that I hadn't read before. I also read Electric Idol by Katee Robert, which I thoroughly enjoyed. This is the second book in the Dark Olympus series, and gosh, it was great. This is Eros and Psyche's story, and in this one, Psyche finds herself in Aphrodite's crosshairs. So this world is very much like a mafia world, so it's kind of got that dark romance element to it, and Olympus is ruled by the 13, who are 13 very powerful individuals who basically control everything that's going on in the city. Aphrodite being one of them, although she is sort of the second tier of the rulers here. So the top tier is Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, and then everything else flows below that. They're not actually gods, they're just using the titles of the Greek gods. Psyche is the daughter of Demeter, and yeah, she comes into Aphrodite's crosshairs, and then Aphrodite sends her son Eros, who she has raised to be her fixer, which is totally messed up, after Psyche to kill her. And when it comes time to actually do the deed, Eros finds that he can't, because Psyche has actually been nothing but nice to him in a world where no one is particularly nice to him, least of all his mother. And so he comes up with a plan where he and Psyche will enter into a marriage of convenience in order to protect her. Psyche is not overly thrilled with this, but she recognizes that it's probably the only way that she's going to come out of this alive. And they agree that once Aphrodite is no longer an issue, they agree that the marriage will be dissolved then, and then Psyche will be free. However, once they start spending time together, they begin to get under each other's skin, and it's great. So lots of really fun tropes in here. This one does feel very much morality chain light to me, which I adore, because Eros has been raised his entire life to do his mother's bidding, and he's never really had anyone see himself for who he is, and Psyche really becomes that tether for him. And you also have really amazing plus size rep in this, because Psyche is plus size, she's amazing, and just this vibrant character who I adored. I also read Bombshell by Sarah MacLean. This is the first book in the Hell's Bells series. It is historical romance set in Victorian England, and I enjoyed it, but I thought I would enjoy it more, which is a little bit disappointing. Which is not to say I didn't like it, because I did really enjoy it. I just felt the parts of it dragged a little bit. This is about Lady Cecily Talbot, who is the only Talbot sister who is unmarried. Apparently in the past, because this is tied to some of her other series that I haven't read, she has caused scandals in the past, and so these days most people don't even blink an eye if she does something completely weird and outlandish, because she's 30 and unmarried, and that's just not done at this time. But she has teamed up with some allies. There is the Duchess, whom we don't know her full name yet, we just call her the Duchess, and then there's Adelaide and Imogen, and the four of them go around trying to right the wrongs done to women in society at this time. And on one such occasion, she is seen by Caleb Calhoun, who is her sister's best friend, and she's always kind of had this attraction to him. He is her sister's best friend, he's American, and he and her sister are in business arrangement together. And Cecily has always liked him, but he's never really returned or appeared to return the sentiment. But throughout the course of this book and the things that Cecily and her girl gang are investigating, Cecily and Caleb become entwined, and Caleb's past comes back to haunt him, and Cecily is involved in that, and things kind of go from there. It was an interesting start to the series, and I am going to continue it because I desperately want the stories of other characters. I think Annalade is next, and I really, really want her story. I may have gone into this with too high expectations. So yes, that I don't have much more to say than that. And then the final book that I read this week was a buddy read with Brie. We read How to Bang a Billionaire, which is by Alexis Hall. It is the first book in the Ardens and Ives series. And without realizing it until I started reading it, and then I picked it up very quickly, like within the first chapter, this is very much like a 50 Shades of Grey retelling, but better. So this is an romance between Arden, who is a university student at Oxford, and Caspian, who is a former student, but he is now one of the wealthiest individuals in London. Arden is participating in a telethon for the university where they're calling up former graduates and asking them to donate money towards scholarships and things like that. And Arden is not very good at it. He's very flighty, but he doesn't really feel comfortable talking on the phone to other people, and he calls up Caspian, who has no idea who he is, and then he just starts talking to him, and Caspian starts talking back, and they have this great back and forth banter. What he doesn't realise is that that is not normal for Caspian either. They finish the phone call eventually, and Arden's like, yeah, he's never going to donate the money, blah, blah, blah. About a week later, Oxford is hosting an evening for all the people who donated money, like a big fundraising thing, and Caspian turns up, and he's waiting for Arden. And Caspian is very buttoned up, he's very tight-laced, he keeps his emotions in check, and Arden is not like that at all. He's very out there, he says exactly what he's thinking, and there's this connection between the two of them. I loved reading this with Brie because we both picked up on the 50 Shades of Grey stuff without having read anything around the book before it, and Alexis Hall is just fantastic. He does banter and conversation so well, and he builds the tension between these characters. And if you liked boyfriend material, or if you liked For Real or things like that by Alexis Hall, you will probably like this one, because it honestly didn't feel heavy, even though there were some heavy things being discussed. And I think that's what Alexis Hall does really well. You just sink into the world of his characters, and it's fantastic. So we will be buddy reading the other books in this series a little bit later on. And Brie also informed me that we are also going to be buddy reading Alexis Hall's back catalogue as well, which is totally fine with me because I was planning on doing that anyway. All right, so those are the books that I read this week, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I'm also really enjoying what I'm reading for the Romance Takeover Readathon, although it's slightly heavier contemporary romances, which I haven't read for a while, so we're getting there. In the comments, I would love to know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on picking them up. Otherwise, feel free to share something that you have been reading and enjoying over the last week. Or if you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a what kind of emoji? Well, you could do a bomb for Bombshell. You could do a princess for Princess Ever After. Choose something that's related to one of the books. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.